American Aboriginals had gay marriage and trans people over 500 years ago. Let's talk about that. Hi, thanks for tuning in to Cruising the Demi-Monde Queer History in the World of Twilight. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Two-Spirited community, which was a group of American Aboriginals with a diverse sexual and gender expression. It roughly corresponds to queer, but the meaning is much larger than that. Now, I want to say at the outset that I am a colonizer, and my sources for this video are all European explorers and conquerors. Please don't let this be the last thing that you hear on the topic. I'm going to put links in the description to some Aboriginal sources. Anywhere that they disagree with this video, take their word over mine. I'm also going to say that because of the sources I'm using, I'm going to be using the pronouns and gendered language of European explorers. Now, it can be tempting to apply the label queer to this community because that's a nice, amorphous, big umbrella descriptor, but it doesn't quite work. And I think the biggest reason why it doesn't work is queer is a marginal identity. It exists in opposition to a cishet normative center. But if we look at many Aboriginal societies, we'll see that Two-Spirited folks were actually central to their culture and had a privileged position within it. Among the Crows, we know that they were accepted and sometimes honored. Among the Illinois, they were present in councils, nothing could be decided without them, and they led an extraordinary life. They were persons of great consequence. So how did someone become Two-Spirited? Well, details vary from place to place, but the Lewis and Clark expedition discovered a tribe wherein if a young boy shows signs of effeminacy and girlish inclination, they're taken among the girls, dressed in their way, and brought up with them. Their day-to-day life also included this kind of cross-gender behavior. Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca, writing regarding Mexican Aboriginals, said that they dressed like women and performed women's duties. And among the Crows, there were men who dressed as women and specialized in women's work. There were some interesting implications among the Two-Spirited with regards to warfare. For example, Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca says they fired the bow and the arrow and could carry heavy loads on their persons. But among the Illinois, it is said they go to war but can only use clubs and not bows and arrows, because those were the weapons proper to men. In terms of marriage, Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca says that he saw a man married to another man, and on the Lewis and Clark expedition, they noticed that these Two-Spirited folks were also sometimes married to men. Now, how is it that there was such an openness to divergent gender and sexual expression among the Aboriginals? Well, obviously you can't boil this down to one cause, but Michael Bronski says the primary reason is the much more civilized way in which Aboriginal tribes treated women quite a lot of the time. There were a lot of tribes in which women could be involved in vocations that to the Europeans were men's vocations. There's a lot of references to women attaining spiritual and political power. They also had matriarchal divinities. And in this environment in which women have a great deal of power, there's a lot less shame and policing involved in making sure that men uphold the patriarchy with a rigid sense of gender and sexuality. So how did the Europeans view these Two-Spirited folks? Well, obviously not great. The Europeans who arrive in North America, to put it bluntly, are among the most psychotic Europeans who have ever lived, and they had a great deal of intolerance toward any kind of behavior outside their gender and sexual boxes. The Franciscan monk Pedro Font described it as nefarious practices. Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca called it diabolical. And Pedro Font looked forward to the day in which Christianization would remove this Two-Spirited population by saying there will be much to do when the holy faith and the Christian religion are established among them. Other Europeans were much more physical in how they felt about Two-Spirited folks. In 1513, Vasco Núñez de Balboa had 42 spirited folks fed alive to his dogs. Wow, that is crazy. Michael Bronski says that European religious and social thought held that people who did not adhere to Christian concepts of sexual behavior, gender affect, or modesty were less than human. They were in fact like animals, qualified to be deprived of individuality, liberty, and life itself. Ouch. Okay, so I hate to end this episode on a downer. This is not the only episode we're going to be doing on Two-Spirited Folks. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a